Anti-alcohol lobby group, the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance South Africa, has taken to the streets to protest the sale of alcohol at petrol stations, forecourt shops. BP garages and retailer Pick n Pay announced plans to sell wine through BP's Pick n Pay Express forecourt convenience stores. And the Petroleum Group is planning a rollout to other BP sites in the coming few months. Joining us now to explain their position is Mr. Maurice of the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance South Africa. Mr. Smithers, a very good afternoon to you. You are staging a protest outside BP today. Tell us why and where exactly you are.
Thank you, Tommy. I hope you can hear me because we are actually outside the BP headquarters in Rosebank. As you can see, we got a small demonstration where we are reaching out to the community and raising awareness around the issue. Unfortunately, BP is not on duty at the moment, but we've handed over a memorandum to the security for BP to look at. The reason why we are running this campaign is because we believe that issuing liquor licenses to petrol stations is going to add to the already existing problems that we have in South Africa around alcohol, particularly because there's a direct link. But having liquor available at petrol stations actually creates a very direct link between drinking and driving. And we already have a problem around drinking and driving in the country. So we really don't believe that it's going to be of benefit to the country at large for this to take place.
And what type of legislation has actually allowed this to happen or given this the platform to take effect, as in the issuing of licenses to such stores at petrol stations?
Look, the problem is actually it's not what legislation we have that allows it. It's what legislation we don't have that doesn't allow it. The reality is that there is nothing in the legislation currently that says that a petrol station shop in particular cannot apply for a license. And given the fact that some of the shops, for example, the one that already has a license is Pick n Pay. Now, Pick n Pay, the supermarket chain, can already get licenses. And so for them to be able to get a license, they simply have to apply for that particular premises, as it's an extension of their bigger Pick n Pay empire. So the challenge is that the government has actually adopted a liquor policy in 2016, which specifically recommends that such licenses are not allowed. And the Liquor Amendment Bill of 2016, which is still not passed after 5 years, actually specifically forbids it. And so we're kind of in a hiatus period, a limbo period, where government has decided that it's a bad idea for these licenses to be issued, but the law has not yet been passed. And therefore, provinces, who are the ones who issue licenses, can decide for themselves whether they want to do so or not.
Is there a lack of convergence between the different departments? For example, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and the Department of Transport, which its objective is to make sure that the number of road fatalities are reduced, while the other hand, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, their mandate is the one that will regulate the issuing of licenses. Should there be more communication between these different departments?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about having a whole government approach where all departments, and it's not just transport, it's DTRC who do the liquor legislation, it's the Department of Health, Department of Community or Police, Department of Social Development. All of them have a role to play in the situation, and they should really be all working together. That's why we thought that when the liquor policy was approved by Cabinet in 2016 and the Liquor Amendment Bill was approved by Cabinet in 2016, that it would go through. But unfortunately, there is no real collaboration. And we really don't understand why the DTRC is dragging their heels on the issue, because it really should, the bill was approved by Cabinet in 2016. It went out for public comment in 2016 and 2017. And here we are in 2021, and the bill is still not passed, and there's absolutely no indication of when it's going to be passed or if it's going to be passed. And that really is a problem. And apart from that, there's also then a disjuncture with provincial legislatures, because each of them can create their own liquor acts. So we have some provinces that have forbidden petrol sales, but others who haven't. So there is a challenge, and that's why we call for a whole government approach. Everybody must get on board because it's a national problem.
Let's look at how other countries around the world deal with this. What is the common practice? In other countries, can one purchase alcohol from petrol stations, or at least the convenience stores located at petrol stations?
As we understand it, there are around 65 countries in the world that have specifically banned the sale of alcohol from petrol stations. There are others where they haven't necessarily banned it, but it's not a practice. And then there are others where you can buy perhaps beer. I remember going to Brazil once and going into a petrol station in Brazil and seeing, piles of beer, but that's all they could sell there. But there are also places, I think, some states in the United States and possibly other countries where you can buy the whole range of everything, beers, ciders, wines, and spirits. So there isn't a common practice in the world, but at least a third of countries don't allow it at all. Others obviously may not have a law against it, but don't encourage it. But I think there's a general move in the world towards not allowing it because of the risks. And the World Health Organization is behind that. It encourages countries to actually not allow it to happen.
And how do the drinking and driving and accident statistics in South Africa rate in comparison to the other countries?
Well, first of all, our traffic incident rate, car crash rate in the country, car deaths and so on, is much higher than most countries in the world. It's much higher than the average in the world. And apparently around 58% of car crash deaths are associated with alcohol. So we do actually have a problem around drink driving, and it really needs to be addressed. It was quite, when we handed over this memorandum to the security at BP, one of the people said to us, he supports what we're doing, because when he gets into a taxi or a bus to go on a long trip, he wants to know that the driver cannot stop at a petrol station and buy alcohol, because then he won't feel safe. And I think that's an important point that we all need to understand, that if somebody drinks and drives, they become a threat to everyone around them. And that's why it's really important that we discourage this. And we're hoping that we will persuade BP they've only issued one license so far. We're hoping that we can persuade them to change their mind and to withdraw from making these applications.
Are you perhaps not picketing at the wrong company? Should this picket perhaps not be outside those who have the authority to issue out licenses, as opposed to BP, which is one of many service station and brands around the country?
No, you're right, and we are planning that. We're planning to have a picket outside Parliament, and we will consider that with provinces as well. I have to say, though, that we did have a very, very productive meeting with the Gauteng provincial government a week ago, and with the MEC for Economic Development, Parks Tau, and his officials, and some people from the Liquor Board. And they were very, very sympathetic to our concerns, and they have undertaken to have further meetings with us where we can thrash through this issue. So we are hoping that we won't need even to picket outside Gauteng, because they are willing to meet with us and talk about it. And we have noted that, as I said, that there are some provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, it's already in their legislation that you cannot have these licenses. So we hope that we can engage with all the provinces, but we will picket outside them if necessary, if we feel as though they're not understanding the issue and not actually being responsive to our concerns.
Mr. Maurice Smithers, thank you very much for your time and your update this afternoon. He is director at the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance in South Africa. They're picketing outside the headquarters of BP. A license has been issued allowing BP as well as Pick n Pay to be able to sell alcohol at their petrol stations. They're saying that this is not a good idea according to the alliance, and that this will increase the rate of drunken driving as well as accidents.